Hi, and welcome to the Simple Weight Loss Podcast. I'm Christina, qualified nutritionist, food coach, and mum of two. If you're a busy mum who wants straightforward, no-nonsense weight loss advice without all the complicated science talk, or you just want to learn more about health and nutrition in a way that's easy to understand, then you're in the right place. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Simple Weight Loss Podcast. If you haven't joined us before, my name's Christina and I'm really happy to have you here. So I was thinking recently about how I wish I'd started doing a lot of things earlier in life. Not that I'm that old, but I wish that I'd started taking my health seriously a lot earlier than I did. Maybe in my early 20s, even in my teens would have been better. And I know better late than never, but if I could go back, there are definitely a few things I would tell my younger self. Who knows if I would have listened? Probably not. But I thought I'd do an episode on this because maybe it might be helpful for some of you. So I want to share 5 things that I would do differently if I had my time over. And these are 5 things that if I'd figured them out sooner, it would have saved me years of just wasted time health-wise. I wouldn't have been going into circles trying to lose weight all the time. I wouldn't have been trying so many things that didn't work and feeling like I was doing everything right all the time and getting nowhere. So let's get into it. First one, I wish I'd started strength training sooner. So I ended up starting strength training probably in my mid to late 20s. And when I mean strength training, I mean lifting heavy weights. I did do some lighter stuff earlier on, but I wish I did heavier weights sooner. When I was in my teens and early 20s, I didn't really know anyone who was into strength training. So it wasn't something I was ever exposed to or knew much about. Most of the people around me who were exercising were more into cardio. So when I eventually did start exercising and going to the gym, that's pretty much all I did. I was getting on the cross trainer, treadmill, bike, and doing classes like Les Mills classes, like a tackle, can't remember the names of them or whatever it may have been. But I was doing a lot of that kind of thing. And the weights felt really intimidating to me. It always seemed to be the guys in that area of the gym. So I stayed well away for a few years. And I'm not saying cardio is bad. If cardio is something that you love, I think moving your body in any way is a good thing. So definitely don't give it up if that is what you're doing right now. But the reason I wish I'd started strength training much earlier is because of what muscle actually does for you. Not just in the gym, but in your everyday life. And this is something that no one explained to me when I was younger either. If someone did explain it to me, I probably would have been like, yeah, whatever. But at least I would have known. So muscle is your metabolic engine. The more lean muscle you have, the more energy your body burns at rest. So not just when you're exercising, but at rest, just existing, even just sitting on the couch, lying in bed. And when you're in a calorie deficit trying to lose weight, muscle is also what protects your metabolism from slowing down. Without it, you can end up losing weight, but losing muscle along with it, which makes the whole process harder and harder over time. But on top of all that, I wish someone had just told me how good it feels to be strong, not in an aesthetic way. I mean, I'm not exactly a bodybuilder or, fitness model or anything, but I mean in a functional strength way, to being able to pick things up, carry your groceries, play with your kids without your back complaining, that sort of thing matters. I remember when I first started strength training properly and the feeling of actually getting stronger, it's kind of addictive and you want to keep doing more and more because you want to see how strong you can get. So if I could go back and tell myself about strength training, I would say you don't need to know what you're doing to start with. You can always ask for help from a personal trainer. And I know gyms can be intimidating. Sometimes at some gyms, I get intimidated, even though I've been doing it for years, because there are some really fit, strong people out there. But try and ignore what everyone else is doing and focus on yourself. But you don't need to be a certain fitness level to start. You just need to start and start with light weights, start simple. But the key is to just start giving it a go. And you learn as you go. Okay, number 2 is to prioritize protein. This one is probably the single thing that would have changed the most for me, the fastest. I would have, if I could have, prioritized protein a lot earlier in my life. I can't say I really thought about the amount of protein I was eating when I was younger, not until around the time I started studying nutrition, or maybe a bit before that. I love rice and pasta. So a lot of my meals always revolved around those. And because of that, I know that I definitely was not eating enough protein, which would have been making my weight loss attempts so much harder than they needed to be. And the reason is because protein keeps you full, like really full, if you're eating the right amount of it for you. It's the most satiating macronutrient that's out there, which means that when you're eating enough of it, the constant snacking, 3 p.m. sugar cravings, the after dinner grazing, a lot of that stuff just naturally reduces. And it reduces without you even trying. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I need to be disciplined. I really need to stick to this diet. That kind of fades away because your body isn't looking for anything else. And then there's what it does for your body composition. So when you're trying to lose fat, you want to be losing fat, not muscle. And protein is what preserves that muscle while you're in a deficit. Without enough protein, you could be doing everything else right and still end up with a result that doesn't look or feel the way you wanted it to. It also supports your training. So if you're strength training, which if you're not already, I hope you will be because of everything we just covered before, protein is what your muscles use to repair and grow. Without it, you're putting in all this work at the gym and not giving your body what it needs to actually respond to that work. And the great thing about protein is that it's not complicated. You don't need to be obsessive about it. You don't need to count every gram forever, but just being intentional about adding a quality source of protein to every meal, that one thing alone can change everything for you. For me, when I'm eating enough protein during the day, I find that I'm thinking about food less, especially at lunchtime. If I don't have a decent amount of protein at lunch, I'm looking for snacks way before dinner. But if I do, then sometimes I'll still have a snack. It could be out of habit, but I'm not necessarily like starving and feel like I need to eat everything. So it really makes a difference. So on this one, if I could go back, I'd tell myself before you start cutting anything out of your diet and trying to restrict yourself to lose weight, just add in more protein. So forget the next diet or the next meal plan. Just ask yourself, am I getting enough protein in every day? 9 times out of 10, the answer is probably going to be no. Number 3, I would tell myself not to get sucked into fad diets because I did a fair bit of this, or a lot of yo-yo dieting as well. But if I had my time over, I would stay well away from them. So I tried a few things. One of the probably the dumbest ones I did was the lemon detox diet, where you're basically just drinking lemon water with cayenne pepper, I think it was, and you're doing that for about a week or 10 days. And I remember when I was doing it, my mum said to me, you should at least drink some vegetable juices or something to get the nutrients in. And I was like, whatever, it'll be fine. And I mean, I was fine and I did lose some weight, which I was so excited about. But of course, as soon as I started eating and drinking properly, the weight just came back and it came back with more weight. I think I also tried a soup diet at one point. I got sick of that so quick because I like variety in my meals. So that did not last at all. I have had a couple of stints of being vegan or more plant-based. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being vegan or having a plant-based diet, but it needs to be done properly. Some people might switch to being vegan because of animals. They don't want to eat animal products anymore, which is fine. But you can say you're vegan and still just be eating hot chips and drinking Coke. It's not necessarily a healthy diet. So it's definitely important if you're going to switch to veganism that it's done in the right way and you're getting all the nutrients that you need. But for me, I think my main issue was starting over all the time, starting over on a Monday, just binging on the weekend, feeling really bad and thinking I'm going to start being good again. So that's not necessarily a fad diet, but it would be part of telling myself to stop doing that. That every single time I would start, I'd feel like, yes, this is it. I was excited to get going again. This is it. This is the one that's finally going to work for me. And the first week or so, I'd be feeling pretty good, but then have an event or something, I'd go out on the weekend. And then, of course, everything just derails because what I was doing was too restrictive to maintain forever. And when I want to do something, I'm really good at sticking with things and seeing them out. But for some reason, it just wasn't working with these diets and starting over and trying to be good all the time. And it wasn't because I wasn't committed to it. I was, but I was just being too restrictive. I was trying to cut out too much that it really just was not sustainable. Or these things were just designed to be temporary that I was trying. They weren't built for real life. And it's a constant pattern that I see all the time. People are trying all these different diets, but they're just really not sustainable because they're not happy eating the way that they've told themselves they have to eat to lose the weight. So whether it's carbs or fat or entire food groups or eating windows or whatever it might be, the strategy is always restriction. And restriction works in the short term. If you stick to it in the short term, it's going to work. But it's usually not a strategy that you can sustain, because the moment you stop sustaining it, you go back. And a lot of the time you go back further from where you started because your relationship with food has taken a hit along the way. So what I wish I'd understood back then is that the goal isn't to find the perfect diet. The goal is to find a way of eating that you can actually live with and that you're happy with for your whole life. Not for 6 weeks, not until your event, not until you hit your goal weight, and then figure it out from there. You need to be able to stick with whatever it is for your whole life. The moment I realized that fad diets weren't the answer and yo-yo diet wasn't the answer, it's kind of like this weight just lifted because I no longer had to keep thinking about food. This stress was just gone because I don't think about food in that way anymore. Yes, I think about food a lot still because I have to feed my family and, we all have to figure out what we're eating every single day for the rest of our lives. So there's always that stress. But I'm not constantly worrying about when am I going to start my next diet? When am I going to start eating healthy? Because it's just how I am now. It's just how I live. It's a freeing thing when you don't have to stress about food and what you're eating every day. You can just eat and live and be happy. So if I could go back, I would tell myself, if you couldn't imagine eating this way in 5 years' time, it's probably not the answer. So stop looking for the plan that takes the most away and start building something you can actually stick with and keep forever. Next up, go for more walks. This one is really simple, but I would have gone on so many more walks if I just knew what I know now. My parents walked all the time, almost every morning, and they definitely tried to encourage me to come with them, but I rejected it most of the time because I was a lazy teenager. And I also grew up in central Victoria where it gets really cold. So getting up at 6 a.m. to go for a walk in freezing cold weather was not my idea of fun. But on the odd occasion that I did go, I actually did feel good afterwards. So I wish that I'd held onto that feeling and kept going, but unfortunately I didn't. And as I got older, I did start walking more, but I still kind of dismissed it as proper exercise, like it didn't count. It's just what you did when you didn't have time for a real workout at the gym. But looking back now, I had it completely wrong. And something that changed the way I thought about this is this concept called NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And all that is just the energy you burn just by moving throughout the day. So it's not formal exercise, it's just any other movement. So maybe it's cleaning, you're picking your kids up, you're running around with them, you're doing the groceries, you're going up and down stairs. All of that comes under NEAT. And research shows that NEAT actually can account for a really significant chunk of your total daily energy expenditure, sometimes more than a gym session. The problem is that in modern life, that our NEAT has dropped a lot. We sit at our desks all day, we sit in cars, we sit on the couch, and a 45-minute gym session, as great as it is, it doesn't undo 8 hours of sitting. If we add in regular walks throughout the day, that adds up in a way most people really underestimate. And then there's everything beyond the physical. Walking is one of the best things you can do for your mental health and for stress levels as well. A lot of the time, it's really good for if you're trying to process something, how you process and think through problems. Sometimes just going for a walk can help with that. And there's something about moving your body, especially outside, that just clears the mental clutter in a way that nothing else really can. So if I could go back, I would tell myself to stop waiting until you have time for a real workout. Just go out for a walk for however long you possibly can. Throw on your shoes and go, because it counts and it adds up. So just do what you can, but go for a walk. And last point is to learn what's actually in your food. This one's a bit different to the others because it's less about a specific habit and more about a mindset shift. So I wish I had learned what's in my food earlier, but not in an obsessive way, not in a read every label and calculate every macro kind of way, but in the sense of genuine food literacy, to understanding what you're eating, what it's made of, and what it's doing in your body. I think I always had a kind of awareness or a wanting to know about food because of the way I was brought up. My parents are health conscious people, and that definitely rubbed off on me. But my interest in food and health was more of a gradual build over the years. So when I started getting a bit more serious about looking after my health, I would follow plans and programs without ever really understanding the why behind them. I'd be told to eat this and avoid that, and I just did it. And the moment the program ended, I had no idea how to navigate food on my own because I hadn't learned anything. I just followed instructions. This is why I don't just provide weight loss programs for women that work. I also include an educational component so that when the program ends, you know how to keep it going. You don't just stop and think, what now? You've got all the tools you need to keep doing what was in the program. And then there's the processed food side of things, which I think is massively underestimated. A lot of ultra processed foods are engineered to override your satiety signals to make you eat more than you intended to. That's food science working exactly as it was designed to. And when you understand that, it changes how you look at what you're eating. Learning to read a nutrition label, understanding what protein and fiber actually do, knowing what a real portion looks like, that kind of awareness sticks with you in a way that, just a meal plan never really will. It gives you the tools to make good decisions in any situation, not just when someone else has laid it all out for you. I think having the understanding makes you want to eat better as well. When you don't know, you don't know. So, of course, you just eat whatever you like eating. But when you understand what's going to benefit you, you start wanting to eat more of these foods. And even if you didn't really enjoy them before, like fiber, trying to get a 30-gram fiber goal every day, if you haven't been used to eating a lot of veggies and plant foods, high fiber foods, when you understand how it can help you, especially if you're trying to lose weight, you're naturally going to want to eat more of them because you know what it's going to do for you. And then you start enjoying them because you start learning different ways of eating them that you actually like. So it changes everything, having that understanding and that knowledge behind food. So if I could go back, I'd tell myself to spend less time following someone else's rules and start learning the why, understand what's going on when you eat the foods and why you should eat them. Because that knowledge, once you have it, you've got it forever. So there they are. They're the 5 things I would do differently if I could start over, or the things I would go back and tell myself to do. Start strength training, prioritize protein, don't get sucked into fad diets or keep yo-yo dieting, go for more walks and learn what's actually in your food. And I want you to notice something about that list. None of those things are extreme. There's no detox. There's no cutting out entire food groups. There's no transformation challenge, no 5 a.m. workouts unless you really want to get up at 5 a.m. It's just the basic fundamentals, really. And the key is to just do them consistently over time. And I think that's the hardest thing to accept when you're in that place of feeling frustrated and like nothing is working, because you want it to be more complicated than that. You want there to be some secret that you've been missing. But the secret, if you could call it a secret, is that it's the basic things that most people already know. It's the boring things. It's just the day-to-day fundamentals of what actually make change happen. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Don't try and do all 5 of these at once. If you're already doing some, great, just pick up what you might be missing. So start with one, just pick one of them and start with that one, the one that feels most doable for you right now, and commit to doing that over the next couple of weeks and let it become your new normal before you add the next thing in. So that's how you're going to make sustainable change. Just one habit at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself trying to do everything. If you got something out of today, enjoyed the episode, I'd really love it if you could leave a review, but definitely follow me on Instagram, The Simple Health Method. But thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.